and to be able to help spearhead, our veterinary works in Canada here. And I'm excited to see where it goes. So yeah, it allows me to just use a different part of my brain. But interestingly, once a vet, always a vet. Veterinarians are fantastic at triaging. They can do so many things at once, and that will serve you very well, whether you're a clinical veterinarian or not.
I'm excited to share with you a conversation I had with Justin McLash, a veterinarian in Canada who practiced as a clinical veterinarian for 18 years and as 30 days ago, transitioned out of clinical practice to be the National Veterinary Medical Director for TELUS Health. Justin is a passionate, driven person, but I think I caught him at an especially exciting time, and this was a powerful conversation. We talk about the challenges of transitioning the type of work we do as veterinarians, the importance of challenging ourselves to grow as people and to grow the profession into an exciting future, and much more. In his new role, he helps drive the expansion and operations of veterinary services across Canada, especially through a digital-first solutions platform called MyPet, which is a virtual consultation platform. This is intended to help increase access to care, provide better patient outcomes, and supplement primary caregivers in the veterinary industry. Justin is passionate about the health and welfare of the veterinary profession and giving back to an industry that has given him so much. This is such a good conversation. On to Justin.
When did you even know you wanted to get into veterinary medicine? What's your beginning story?
Oh my goodness, this is my origin story. So my origin story, I was going to be a marine biologist. I used to watch Jacques Cousteau, documentaries and loved them. And I thought, I'm from the prairies, so I'm in the middle of nowhere, right? And I thought I'm going to be there's no oceans here, but I'm going to be a marine biologist. So, that'd be pretty cool. So I moved to where the ocean was, and I went to university at Simon Fraser University out in British Columbia. And I studied marine biology, did biological sciences. And that was my early career. It was probably a number of years later when I was still in academia, and I was doing work in Australia with tiger sharks. And I used to work with tiger sharks and sea turtles and studying ecosystem health and interactions and these sorts of things. At that time, I had a decision to make, and it really was, you can go down two paths. You can continue your studies and then look to where that might lead you, or you can make a pivot. And at that time, it wasn't my passion to do that sort of work. It was so much fun, of course. I lived 6 months without wearing shoes on a beach. So, in Western Australia, in the middle of nowhere. So, it doesn't get much better than that. But, eventually reality does have to set in, and you have to figure out, what am I doing long term? I have to feed myself eventually. So, a career seemed maybe more in alignment with, my goals and, what I wanted to achieve. And, I'd obviously strong attachments to science and to animals and these sorts of things. And it was a consideration I've always had for a number of years, just hadn't focused on it. And at that point, I made a change. I thought, this is something that really I want to look at, because it's something that I feel you can do so much more with. And you can take it with you wherever you go and do something with it. And that's the cool thing about this profession. You truly can. It's something in your pocket. Take it out on a rainy day and do something cool with it. And let's see what that's going to look like, right? So I went, I applied to vet school and went to, the WCVM in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and had a wonderful experience. I found that university was fantastic. Just the camaraderie between everyone who's in it together. It's a community of itself, right? And I keep in touch with a number of those individuals still, and know where they're at. 18 years later here. Yeah, that's kind of my processes where I started out. I was going to be Jacques Cousteau, but that's not exactly where my story went. But I had a lot of fun in the meantime, for sure.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I'm glad that you still keep up with a lot of your vet school classmates. I just got to see some of my own at the VMX conference, and it was kind of nice to see everybody. The neat thing about veterinary medicine is I think we are a very close knit group. And so we do form a lot of good relationships. Now, we just talked about kind of that vet school prepares us for clinical practice. And that's the mindset. So I'm assuming that's kind of how you went in and how you went out.
Yeah, it's exactly what I thought I would do. I thought I'm going to be a clinical veterinarian. That's what you do, right? You go to school and you do that, and you leave and you go into an exam room and you start doing stuff. And that's what I did. I actually started my own practice when I graduated. I partnered with someone, and straight from graduation, we started a practice from the ground up, and moved back to British Columbia at that time, right on the West Coast, and we started our practice, small animal practice, and it was very successful, and that was fantastic. But it was in a small community, which I love, because you know what I did. I did and still do bump into everyone that I know in the community. 18 years later, I've been in that same small community. I've talked to people in the grocery store, and that's how I do my callbacks. How's Fluffy doing? I'll talk to you, in the dairy section. We'll see how Fluffy's doing. And I love that. I love being able to just have that social connection with my community, with the people that I've known for so long. It's important to me. And so, yeah, we had a lot of success, and built a practice, and then it was 2 practices. And as time went on, eventually, and vet med started evolving and things started changing, and there was more of a corporate presence in vet med started developing over years, and you see the transition that starts to evolve there, and that's a conversation of itself for sure. But there was a point where I joined with, corporate vet med. Then, I was getting to that point where, okay, I don't need to do everything myself. I don't need to steer the ship, deal with, the HR side of things, deal with, payroll all the time, dealing with marketing all the time, doing all these different things, because it's a funny thing about veterinarians. We graduate and somehow we think we're masters of everything. And we don't have the training to support that, in fact. And it's interesting, but they say, get out there and go work for someone, maybe open your own practice and do that. And that's what you should do. And really, that's not necessarily what you should do at all. So I joined, with corporate vet med and partnered with them and had a wonderful experience. Truly, I had a wonderful experience for a few years there as well. But what that offered me was the opportunity to just pause and reflect for a minute. And I am very thankful for that opportunity, very thankful, because I feel that if I was just doing things on my own still, that opportunity might not have come. And if it hadn't, that'd be a very sad thing right now. And so what I mean by that, by having those other pieces of the puzzle looked after and managed, and I didn't have to spend 24/7 looking after that, it created time for me to look at things that I didn't know were already there. And it was within a span of 30 days. I remember the thought crossed my mind, and I was talking to my wife at the time, and we said, you know what? What else could we do here? What else could this be? This veterinary industry. And literally in a conversation of, I'd say, less than half an hour, we came up with, you know what? I should be looking at going back to school, really, because I'm a firm believer. If you don't know something, you need to go learn about that. Do it. Take the initiative, get it done, and then process the information, and now do something crazy with it, something fantastic, right? And so it was like a 30-minute conversation that we connected the dots and said, yep, we need to go back to school. Okay, what do we do? So between that conversation, having that thought process, and getting into my MBA, like getting accepted, was 30 days. It was, apply, within 30 days, heard back, okay, this is what I'm doing. Talk about, okay, here we go. This, the next 2 years are basically planned. I'm at the tail end of that right now, of that path. Really, I'll be graduating with my executive MBA in April of this year. So, and I cannot say enough about the process. I went back to Simon Fraser to do my MBA with BD School of Business, and it has been phenomenal. Just the things it opens your eyes to, that, again, standard veterinary professional training has no time to teach you. It doesn't have the space. It says, well, we'll teach you to be a vet in 4 years, but what's included in that training? I made a point earlier. Do we talk about ethics? Do you spend a whole semester talking about ethics, or is it a couple lectures that say, you should be ethical, and let's talk about that a little bit? Maybe instead of sending vets out the door to have some of the most ethical conversations of any profession that they'll face in their lifetime, we should prepare them in great detail to manage the stressors that come with those conversations. to navigate those murky waters between what's right and what's wrong and what's in between. And so my MBA provided me those skills even more so than what I thought I already had. Let's talk about ethics. Let's talk about corporate, governance. Let's talk about corporate responsibility. It's not just accounting and finance and the managerial economics and the financial pieces. It's everything else that comes with that I strongly believe every professional and non-professional should have exposure to. I don't care what you want to do when you grow up. Somehow it should involve some sort of business training, because business isn't just numbers. It's everything that comes with that. Teaching you about the bigger picture and your role in that bigger picture. It gets us exposed to things outside vet med that we will likely never get exposed to unless you remove yourself from vet med and go look. You have to bother to have those conversations. Like what you do right now with this podcast is fantastic, because you're bothering to reach out to people with a variety of backgrounds, and you expose your listeners and yourself to their thought processes, their ideas, their stories that sadly, maybe they wouldn't get exposure to if they just stayed in their lane. And I think a lot of what you do is helping people get out of that lane, to expand their horizon and look at what could this be? What could this profession be? And for me anyways, education was a huge part of that. And it opened my eyes. It truly did. We get put in classes with people that there's no other healthcare practitioners there. I'm the only vet. There's nobody else. We talk about going to conferences. We go to conferences and there can be 30,000 people there. They're all in the veterinary space to some extent, every last one of them. I go to a classroom with 50 people. Those 50 people know nothing about the veterinary space. And that is a beautiful thing, because the only way to expand yourself is to have conversations with people that will challenge you and will think contrary to you and that will disagree with you to some extent. And they push your boundaries, push your limits, and make you better in the end. So I don't need 30,000 people agreeing with me. I need 50 people that challenge me at every moment and make me a better person at the end of the day. And that's exactly what education has afforded me. And I consider I'm very, very lucky to have been able to do it, right? And to have had the time now to do it, right? Of course, these sorts of things you do while you're working. So it's a commitment. Don't get me wrong. If you've got I don't care. Let's say you have a 50 hour work week. You want to do an MBA or some further training, throw 20 to 25 hours on top of that. So you're probably going to have 70 hours every week for 2 years. And that's okay. You can do it. You'll be fine. I would strongly encourage everybody to do it at some point in their career. And there's no wrong time, because education is never a loss. It's only a gain, right? But it requires, some discipline for sure. I'm not going to lie. It's not like, oh, it's easy and I'm sleeping like a baby and, I get at least 12 hours a day. That doesn't happen. But, it's worthwhile, and it opens up ideas that you never knew were inside your head. And that's cool. Yeah.
I love that about you, that you're always looking for ways to challenge yourself and then you go do something about it. And so where to begin on all of that? First of all, I am going to a conference at the end of the month that is not a veterinary conference. I'm going to a podcast conference, and I'm so excited to think that I may actually be the only veterinary person there, because I think that is it. We need the people to go outside of the profession to learn these other skills and bring it back. Because I think that is how we make the profession better, is learning, getting all these different perspectives, being challenged, getting outside of our comfort zone, which seems to be really hard for just human beings in general. But it is so important.
I was going to say, like, your point is 100% correct. I found that in practice, it's so easy to stay in your lane, because as a profession, we get overwhelmed. We are worked so hard, so busy every day in, day out, with some really serious stuff, really serious conversations all the time, day in, day out. And somehow, we're expected just to be okay with that. It's not easy to just elevate yourself and take yourself to hit the pause button on all this mess and just say, holy crow, where am I? It's a skill set. And I would strongly encourage absolutely everyone. I don't care if you're a vet or what you do. at least once a year, you need to hit the pause button. You need to hit it and just stop the game and just take a breath. And physically, I don't care where you are, go hide in a bedroom, go hide somewhere, go on a vacation. I don't care what you do. It can be very, very simple. And you need to process where you are in your life, where it's heading, and is it the direction you chose and that you still want to stay on? And give yourself the ability to change and to say, this isn't where I want to be anymore. This isn't for me. And be okay with that. It's scary and it'll be confronting and those conversations come up, but be okay with that. But it is so hard for people to lift themselves out because they're constantly surrounded with pressure, stress, financial stress, patient, stress, sickness, death, client, pressures, industry changes. Things are constantly in a state of flux, and somehow we expect people to hit the pause button once in a while to reflect on life. That is not something that I say lightly, and it is definitely something that takes energy to do it. But it is crucial, absolutely crucial to making sure at the end of the day, you got to where you wanted to be when your game is over. You can say, yeah, I did what I wanted to do for the most part, or all of it, or at least a little bit of it, right? That's important. So one of the keys I'll say to being successful there, because you can't always do everything yourself. That's not what I'm saying. The key is to surrounding yourself with powerful people. And I don't mean power like money or physical power or control over others. I don't mean that at all. Powerful person is someone who can impact change in your life, that you can use as a lifeline when you need it, that you can reach out to and say, I need help, or I need to talk, or I need some ideas to bounce off you, or someone that you don't even reach out to. They come to find you and say, hey, I've been noticing. And they have the ability to lift us out of those ruts that come up from time to time and recognize, hey, you're in a place. I'm not sure if you're happy where you're at, or if this is where you wanted to go. And they help elevate you. And so having some sort of circle or connection of individuals that can help you with that is invaluable, because it's hard to do it on your own. And so by you, again, having these conversations, it's exactly what you're doing. You're surrounding yourself with people in and out of the veterinary industry that can recognize when maybe, you need a little help, or that are willing to reach out from time to time and say, hey, why don't we brainstorm? Wouldn't that be fun? What if everybody spent one day a year where they took it off and they didn't work? Imagine if businesses did this, which some do. They take one day off for all employees, and all employees can take that day to think about whatever they want to do. This isn't time to go home and do dishes. That's not what I mean by that, but to basically focus on where their lives are at, what makes them happy, and what's the next step in their evolution. How cool would that be? I think we'd have some amazing ideas. I think we'd have happier people. We'd have happier employees. We'd have more successful organizations. So I guess on an individual level, it's a practice that we should get good at. And I struggle every day to try to do that, but it's something that I'm focused on and I pay attention to, because I think when you do that, some really cool stuff comes out of it.
Absolutely. And I like the idea of also having people around you to brainstorm it out with as well. So when you were an owner of a practice, who were your people? Did you surround yourself with mentors, or how did you go about doing that?
That's a good question. So I'm very lucky in that, my wife is one of those people in my life. She's a powerful person. We've been together for a long period of time. She can recognize when, there's cues there that, hey, you need to focus on that, right? Or what about, let's talk that out. But, beyond, family or relationships, you have to look outwards as well. People that I could call in industry and just say, man, I've just been thinking about something, or I've got an idea, or what do you think about this? I will reach out to people that aren't veterinarians for sure, and veterinarians as well, to get experiences and just compare to my own. There's a project that I did previously in actually one of my courses a year and a half ago, and it was conversations of leadership. That was the sole assignment. Conversations of leadership. And your job was to randomly pick people you thought were great leaders and interview them. Just talk to them. And it's a very confronting thing. Everyone says, oh, they're not going to want to talk to me. They're not going to want to talk to me. Everybody wants to talk to you. The biggest take home I took from that entire experience, and we, at the end of the day, I don't even remember how many people we interviewed. As a class, over 100 people here. Everyone wants to talk to you. Everybody does, right? So it's exciting because people want to share their stories and they want to help you. They're not out to get you. They're not out to hold you back. So, I would reach out personally to, yes, people I know in industry, yes, people I have external to industry. But if you really want to push the envelope, find people out there, just out there. And out there, I mean, like globally, I don't care where you look. Find people that maybe, you kind of like what you're seeing with them, or, you like to be maybe more, like them in some way. Like, oh, I really enjoy how you, how you've leveraged yourself to be successful in your career. And I'm going to reach out and just see if I can talk to that person. And because if you never ask, it's never going to happen. But oftentimes people are willing to share their story, and you pick up so many pieces of information that you can apply to your life itself. So I would say it's critical to talk to, yes, your close central group, your core, your friends and family. Yes, your industry partners, your external to industry partners. And then those you don't even know. You might be riding in a cab and have a conversation, and you'll be given a piece of enlightenment that you're a better person for having it. So just talk to people. That's critical, truly. But it takes practice, and you have to have the guts to do it.
What were some of the big take homes from that project of interviewing leaders? What were some of the biggest conversation pieces?
Yeah, it's, what? One of the biggest things I took away was just how authentic they were. Like truly, none of them were inauthentic. And a big piece of their success was being their authentic self. How they show up in their dealings with everyone, whether it's, business partners, employees, teams, etc. They're just their authentic self every single day, and as much as possible. And when you reflect on that, that's a really hard thing to do, because we constantly judge ourselves. We judge each other. We think we need to be a certain way. We need to look a certain way, whatever that is. So we change ourselves. And before you know it, you kind of lose the plot. Who am I supposed to be? But I think the people that really develop that strong sense of self, and can hold tightly to that going forward, those are the ones that are more successful, because really they're showing up as their authentic self, and they're coming from a good place. And the key to those leaders as well, yes, show up, your authentic self, but also, look to elevate others. That was a big piece. It's, a great leader is an infrastructure. It's all they are. They don't have all the answers. They don't know everything. That's not what a leader is at all. They're a support network, an infrastructure with which everyone else around them can build upon. So if you've got a team of 100 people, or you got a team of 2 people, you need to be, if you want to be a great leader, in my opinion, you need to be that support structure that elevates everyone else around you. And you need to somehow figure out how to bring out the best in those people around you. Because if they're comfortable and happy to be their best selves, then they are going to be, just transformational. And now multiply that across your entire organization. And if everyone was acting in a transformational way because they felt supported and happy to be there and empowered to be their best self, that organization is going to take off. It's going to be unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable. So in my opinion, those are 2 basic things that make great leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you are, being a leader as well and getting into new waters, say more about what you are doing now. And I think you got this role 2 months ago. Is that about right?
I've had this role for a month now only. Yeah.
Oh, just a month. Okay.
It's been a month. So, in the last 30 days, I stopped clinical practice. Terrifying. But it was, it's one of those confronting things just to say out loud, I am going to stop practicing. Terrifying, but also very, very liberating. So my current role is I'm the National Veterinary Medical Director for TELUS Health. TELUS is an international organization that in what I do is focused on healthcare solutions, leveraging, basically the internet, and leveraging technology, right? And it's a leader in the space for sure. It's the reason I went that direction and took this job was really they are one of the few organizations that has bothered to step up, that has bothered to rise to the challenge. They've listened to healthcare practitioners, and I'm talking human side and veterinary side now. They've been doing human, telemedicine for years and years and years. And now more recently, we are launching in the veterinary space. But they've listened. They've listened and they've watched. They've seen the direction that the healthcare system is going, how it could be improved upon, and how could they leverage their core capabilities to make it better. And that's fantastic. That's exactly what organizations need to do. That's part of having corporate responsibility, not just, hey, how can we make a profit? It's not about that. It's how can we leave the space better with our core capabilities than how the direction it's going on its own. So, speaking directly about the veterinary aspect, my role is across Canada. I am helping to launch virtual care across Canada, and looking beyond. This is something where, it's like having a startup within a powerhouse, though. You know what I mean? With having the powerhouse to support it, rather than being on your own, and that's so important. So, truly, we're out there and we're leveraging technology to make the veterinary space that much better. And people, often the response I get from veterinarians are, well, you're looking to replace something, and you're replacing that in-person exam. That's not it at all. That's not what telemedicine does or provides at all. It's completely supplemental, completely. And it's just one example of how we can leverage technology. And it just happens to be what I'm focused on primarily right now. I compare it to, X-rays and having an MRI. They're supplemental to each other. An MRI doesn't replace a great set of X-rays, and vice versa. They're supplemental to providing, when you combine them, providing better patient outcomes, happier clients, better service. And if you look at the level of veterinarian and the veterinary teams, you're literally sticking your hand out and pulling them up out of the muck, saying, hey, I've heard you calling for help, and I'm here to do that. That's what we're doing as an organization, in the veterinary field and on the human field. We're helping where we need it most, right? We've got people that they're burnt out. The pandemic is the catalyst to something that's been coming for years. Veterinary shortages, the issues that people talk about at length at conferences. I'm sure you see the writing's been on the wall for years. It's just that not many people have bothered to step up and say, I'm going to help. And TELUS has said they will. And they've empowered teams, vast teams, to do it. And so I consider myself very fortunate to be a part of that process and to be able to help spearhead, our veterinary works in Canada here. And I'm excited to see where it goes. So yeah, it allows me to just use a different part of my brain. But interestingly, once a vet, always a vet. Veterinarians are fantastic at triaging. They can do so many things at once, and that will serve you very well, whether you're a clinical veterinarian or not. So it's an observation I'm making in terms of veterinarians and some of the core capabilities they have. So yeah, that's a bit about what I'm doing right now.
That's really exciting. Yes, I've always said that veterinarians are problem solvers. They are very good at assessing a situation and coming up with options and making a plan. So that's a big part of what we do.
Hi, we'll be back with the second half of the show after this quick break. But first, I wanted to take a moment and thank you for listening to the Vet Life Reimagined podcast. If you're enjoying the show, the best way to support us is to leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us to reach more listeners, and we really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. And now back to the episode.
It's taking a step back just for a second, because I could see how I think it's impacting you, and it's new, it's fresh. So I can only imagine that this is a question that people may have who might be considering leaving clinical practice. And that's not an easy transition necessarily. It might, everybody has a different experience, I'm sure. Yeah. But how are you experiencing that? And what advice would you give to others who might either be considering making that change or?
Yeah, I get it. Good question. Number one, it's a leap of faith to some extent, because I was a veterinarian for 18 years, a clinically practicing veterinarian. Sure, I'd done things like, manage multiple hospitals, and I was area medical director for a larger region with a corporate entity. And you do other things with that, but I was still a clinical practitioner. So when you make the decision to, I'm going to change and do something completely different here, shift it up, there is a bit of leap of faith there. But it's faith in yourself, right? It's having confidence that, hey, you have beyond the ability to do what you're putting in front of yourself, right? That pathway you've put in front of yourself, that decision you're going to make now, you're ready for it. You just have to have the confidence to say, yes, I'm ready for it and I can do this. And there's this old saying, well, fake it till you make it. And people throw that out loosely, but there is a big element of truth in that. Totally. You walk into something and you feel that I am confronted by this, I am not prepared. Do it. Do it anyways. Do yourself a favor, put yourself out there, because you will grow leaps and bounds in short periods of time. And if you do that repeatedly throughout your career, you're going to end up just, this amazing person you didn't expect at the beginning, right? It takes you on this convoluted path that's exciting and fulfilling. And so just have the confidence to do it. And there's going to be people that say to you, that are doubters or maybe feel that, you should, be doing something else, or this isn't the right, this isn't the direction you should head. And, just persevering, having the confidence to just say, yeah, this is where I'm going. It's almost like it's a gut feeling telling you that you're on the right path, and you need to pay attention to that, because when you feel that, you bet, it's right. Right. You might not know the end destination or have the right answer about where I'm going to be in 6 months or a year, but it sure as heck is going to be exciting going from here to there. So confidence is a big part of it. And making sure that you just take that time once in a while to self-assess, just to stop, self-assess. Am I on the right path? Because you're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes, and that's totally okay. That's part of learning. Like if you never mess up, then you're not going to learn as much as the person that's messing up every single day. If they make mistakes here and there and they learn from it and they take away knowledge from those experiences, they're going to be infinitely more successful, infinitely more well-rounded as an individual than the person that, never makes a mistake. So give yourself permission to mess up repeatedly and just take away knowledge from that. There's learning in that. So yeah, a lot of, confidence, or at least just belief in yourself that it's going to work out in the end. And giving yourself permission, just be gentle, be kind to yourself, because people really aren't. We're too hard. We're way too hard on ourselves. So take the time to just give yourself some space and breathing room and say, yeah, didn't get that one quite right. Well, I'll get it next time. Or that was a bad decision. Well, then I won't make it again. Right. So those are two key, very crucial points to pivoting in the middle of your career, for sure. And a third one I'll just throw out there as well is really, again, seeking those inputs, those conversations of others that are maybe in areas that you find interesting, because they can give you insights as to, oh yeah, I did this and that didn't work out, or I recommend you try this, because there's so much learning in that as well. Don't just rely on your single view of your pathway. Listen to other people around you, because your view is influenced by the stories in your head. And those stories are sometimes good and sometimes bad. So listen to the stories of others around you, because when you connect all those pieces together, you get a better picture of what reality is and a better picture of where you're going to head with your career.
Absolutely. And even if you make one change now, it doesn't mean it's permanent. It means, you're trying something new. I've seen veterinarians who have left clinical practice, who went back into clinical practice. I've heard some veterinarians who've left and said, wow, why didn't I do that 10 years ago? So you never know. I've talked to someone who completely left veterinary, period, like went off to human health for a little while and realized, oh, nope, I really do like veterinary medicine. I just need to find my place in it. Yes. And so like you've said this a couple times, there is that power of a pause, being able to really sit and think. And I must confess, I'm not always the best at it either. I think I like to keep myself busy. Maybe that's also very common, I think, in the veterinary field, whether we're intentionally doing that or just life is busy and practice. So I think there's so much value into allowing yourself that space to think. I think COVID did that for a lot of people in
Exactly.
general.
Totally. It was the global pause button, really.
Right.
And then, we kind of do with it, what we will, really. But yes, just being able to reflect, and that's not an easy thing to do, is crucial. And trying to make that time to do it. And as I said, giving yourself permission, because you're going to make a decision and it's not what you thought you would end up doing, and saying, okay, that's not going to work out. Maybe it cost you money, and that's okay too. Right? You need to be kinder to yourself. And you might pivot multiple times. Maybe you didn't pivot when you were in school, maybe, because some people do. Some people change, directions multiple times because they think, I have to have this figured out by the time I graduate, because whatever I pick is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. That's not true at all. I went back to school in my 40s. I'm pivoting in my 40s. I've got people that are older than me in my class. This is fantastic. And I guess going back to the value of education, an MBA in particular, the average class age is in its 40s. We've got late 30s to 50s. That's what it looks like. There's a lifetime of experience in those conversations. These aren't, 20, 21-year-old students talking together about life, thinking they have the answers in the world and let's solve, let's figure out world peace. These are people that have had, 8 to 15 to 20 years of real life experience that can then compare notes and say, let's talk a little bit, and let's talk about these subjects and get some real learnings out of it. So yeah, hitting the pause button and surrounding yourself with some really special people is important.
Oh, I love that idea of having older individuals that have all that experience coming together in a room to talk about things and leadership and business. I can only imagine the wisdom and ideas that you could come up with in that room. So
for sure. It's, it's interesting because you see, if I compare my veterinary education and my education I'm going through right now, both incredibly invaluable. When you're a young student, you absorb what you're told. That's it. Just absorb it. Just take it because you need to graduate. Got it. As an older student, they challenge. Professors are challenged continuously. And 75% or more of the learning comes from the conversations that happen, not from the material necessarily. The material is just a stimulus to have a conversation about this. But the learning comes from everyone else. And that's what I didn't expect going into it. And that's what has been invaluable for me. And so, yeah, I do. It's never too late to make a change, whether it's changing a career or going back to school or stopping and saying, I'm not going to do this career anymore. There's nothing wrong with any of these pathways. It's, just bothering to answer that central question for yourself as to what makes sense for you. What's going to work for you right now? Might change in a year or 5 years or what have you, but, try and plan out what you can, but do what works for you now.
Absolutely. And going through your MBA, working now with a big forward-thinking company, what excites you most about the future for veterinary medicine?
Ooh, that's a great question. It's unlimited. It truly is. It is completely and utterly, I can make anything that I want with my career. And that's what's super exciting. With veterinary medicine, there's literally no limits to what we can do. And we're at a point within our industry where there's a lot of very significant challenges, a lot of pressures. There's a lot of good things and a lot of bad things all happening at once. And it's all seems to be coming to a head. But within those challenges, there is a great opportunity. And that's what's fascinating. In my career, I focus on, technology and leveraging that and how can we make veterinary medicine a better place for patients and clients and veterinary teams. But it's literally limitless. You can do with it whatever you want. And that's what's exciting about the space. But it will take people to stop, listen, and put energy into it. You can't leave your head down and just trudge along, because if you just keep doing the same thing every day, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't expect that you're going to be in a different place 10 years from now. You're going to be right there because that's what you were doing. And that's okay. For those who want to try something different or pivot or see what's possible, you can basically, it's like a pebble in the pond. You can, just get a little bit of chaos a little bit of chaos in your life, small little bit, and the ripple effect, it can drastically change your life, those around you, and maybe even your profession one day. And I am passionate about, as I said before, leaving a very positive and permanent impact on my profession. And I am unreasonably chasing that down. I am completely passionate about that to no end. And I've found a place that is going to empower me to do it. And my goal at the end of this is when I, ring the bell at the end and I'm done, that I've actually, I don't think I'll ever be done, but that I've left this in such an amazing place, that I can, finally be satisfied.
Well, I am excited for you to watch you do this and to maybe get a little bit of glimpse into all the crazy things and wonderful things that you will help do for this profession and beyond. So thank you for what you do. And is there anything that I should have asked or that you feel that we should share with the profession from your experiences?
You know what? You've have your questions are spot on. They're fantastic. I kind of love where this conversation's gone, really, because we've kind of gone all over the place, and we need more thinking like that, right? We need to be a bit all over the place with our conversations. I think hopefully that there's consideration for our teaching institutions and the product we're putting out there. I think there's considerations for veterinarians and veterinary teams themselves during the career process themselves. They need to focus on, how to be that good leader, how to be an amazing leader, because whether you like it or not, you are one. People look to you now. You've chosen this profession. They look to you with respect and look for leadership. So how can we constantly self-improve to be those great leaders? And then not forget that at any time within that career, we can stop and we can make a change. And it can be drastic or it can be minor. And that's okay. And we need to be giving ourselves the space and the permission to do it. And some really fantastic things will come from that, the more people we have doing it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you. I always end with a final four. So I'm curious to hear your answers to these questions. The first question is, what is something that people may get wrong about you?
Something that people may get wrong about me. People will likely get wrong that I'm an extremely, confident person. I can come across as, oh, he's very confident in what he's doing. He's very this or that. That takes effort. That takes work. You know what? If I am naturally more of an introverted person, but I have given myself permission to be brave, and I've given myself permission to be an extrovert, right? So a lot of times, people look at leaders and say, "Oh, they've got it all together," or they're really confident. Or that's not necessarily who they are. It's a lot of times work and effort to take on those challenges, to take on those positions of power. So that's one thing for sure. Yeah.
I'm glad that was your answer because I saw that a lot. I mean, from leaving veterinary school and immediately starting your own practice. I mean, to me, that's really brave. I mean, especially right now, I hear a lot of veterinary students, myself included, where I wasn't ready to start my own practice. At least I didn't feel ready right out of vet school. So how did that apply even, what did you say, 18 years ago?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How does it apply? So it's my comment before about just put yourself out there. You just have to put yourself out there. Even when you don't think you can do it, when you don't think you're qualified, when you feel like, I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm going to lose my way, do it. It is going to be so much fun and so rewarding and so terrifying along the way. But at the end, you're going to be so much more than you were if you hadn't done it. And that should continue on throughout your entire life, not just at the beginning of your career. The beginning, the middle, the end, constantly challenge yourself. Be fanatical about it. Challenge yourself at every single turn in the road, right? Should I be doing this? What could I be doing that is better than what I'm doing right now? And by better, I mean providing bigger impact for myself, providing bigger impact for, my family, my community, my patients, my clients, and essentially the world. We have to look at things continually in those perspectives. So yeah, just challenge yourself at every turn and you'll be better for it.
I like even in the little brave moments, they start to really compound, or back to your ripple example, right? They really can start to ripple into that bigger impact. I like that.
I am a firm believer, 100%. It just takes one little chaotic moment to have a great impact.
Chaos veterinarians are good at that. So
Yeah, exactly.
The second question is, what is a hidden skill or interest that you have?
Ooh, a hidden skill or an interest that I have. Okay, that's a good question. Um, well, I don't have as much time as I should make for playing various sports, things like that. But I love badminton. I absolutely love badminton.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, racket sports, things like that. I do enjoy a lot. So, yeah, I need to make more time for those sorts of passions. But it's when you take on more and more, don't forget you have to make time to look after yourself as well, and that's important. You know, making sure that you create good habits just to look after your personal health as well. So again, we can all improve, we can all do better. No one's ever going to hit perfection because perfection doesn't exist. So just take time to self improve, whether it's good habits, education, or just relationships, whatever it is. So yeah, but I do like to play some racket sports and paddleboarding. I like paddleboarding too. It's really relaxing.
Oh, very nice. The third one is, what is something on your bucket list?
Ooh, what's on my bucket list? Um, Travel's a big one on my bucket list. I have not spent enough time traveling, and that is something that I like to learn more about things like history and things like that and other cultures, and I haven't made space in my career to date to do a lot of that. So that is definitely on my list. More traveling, whether it's and I'm not. This doesn't have to be fancy at all. I'm just talking about getting out there and seeing more of the world, right? And again, that's the conversation about get out of your bubble, get out of your space, see more of what's out there. Open your eyes, put yourself out there, because when you see more, you're going to start reflecting on what you're doing on a day-to-day level and look at the things you thought were important that maybe they're not so important anymore. And what are the things that I do on a daily level? How do they impact those around me? And not just close neighbors, but what about distant? So, and only travel can really show you those sorts of things. Every new person that you meet, you really take away some piece of learning from that. Really, there's, every conversation, the one we're having right now, we always take away something from it and say, got it. And you just put that away. And before you know it, you've got a big stash of things you put away and you use them for the rest of your life. So yeah, I look forward to doing more of that.
Oh, nice. Now, the last question is, what is something you are grateful for? And I know you are a very grateful person. So if you can narrow that down to one thing, what's one thing you're very grateful for?
Yeah, I've got a long list of gratefuls. I have a long list. I'm grateful for what you do, obviously, and the intention that you put out with your podcast for sure. But if I had to pick one thing, I'm very grateful for my family, because they are that infrastructure, that support network that empowers me to be my best self, beyond a shadow of a doubt. They allow me to do what I need to do to allow me to be, my best self and take on new challenges, and to allow me the opportunity to pivot and be something different, and to allow me to grow. And it is not easy, whether it is your family or your friends or whoever your support network might be. We have to consider the impacts of our decisions that it has on those that care for us. And they have been incredibly supportive along my entire journey, whether it's, I'm going to start my own practice now, and hopefully that works out. I know we have a mountain of student debt. Let's see how this goes, to I think I'm going to stop practicing and go back to school. How does that sound? Yeah. And then we're going to go to, start a different career totally. So yeah, I'm very fortunate to be surrounded with people that, as I said before, those powerful people are especially the ones that care for us the most usually.
Yeah. Now your wife's not a vet, right?
No, she's not. No, she's actually she's a lawyer. She's a professional, so she sees a lot of comparisons across both professions. Actually, yeah, a lot of similarities. And So I have someone that we constantly challenge ourselves to do bigger things, different things, try thinking in different ways. And it's good. So whoever that person is, they can be someone that gives you your Starbucks every morning. I don't care who it is, but find that one person that you can just, have a chat with once in a while and just communicate with, because it's putting yourself out there that'll get you to some very interesting answers. And those answers will likely be full of possibility.
This has been the Vet Life Reimagined podcast. Whether you are listening or watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please make sure you are subscribed to catch all these amazing people in our profession. Also, send this episode to someone you think who would appreciate it. Have a recommendation for someone who would be a good guest? Please reach out on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. There aren't that many Dr. Sprinkles. Until next time, Vet Lifers.